certain offenses, yes, sir.
And we do issue them for like our Class C. It just right now they go to a warrant status, and there's a hold placed on their license with DPS, which is called an Omni hold. So we utilize that, but there are warrants. The cases do go into a warrant status when they haven't been paid and reached a certain point. Any other questions?
It seems like if there is a lot of opportunity here, and I think this is an area where we can really sit down and standardize and flesh out with policies or procedures, just best practices, and really make this more robust, even in terms of the fees, the cost, the structure, how it's operated. But thank you so very much for bringing this to our attention. We are growing, and this is just one of these areas where we need to shore up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So Taisha, real quick. So I know you've been here, less than 2 months, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you have done an absolutely amazing job. I just want to speak that out in front of council and all that other stuff. You've come in, you've taken on a role that was it was just lagging. It was there, it needed help in all sorts of different ways, and already within the short presentation that we've seen, it's just a tremendous amount of work that you've already done. I can't wait to see what happens within this next year under you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, staff, council. I'm Chase Bryant, Parks and Rec Director. So now we're going to get to the fun stuff on Parks and Recreation. I want to start out with our department mission. And instead of reading everything up there, it really boils down to quality of life. And what does that mean to each individual person or family? Everybody here has a different perspective in what your needs and requirements are for parks, whether it's active play, whether it's trail system, whether it's community, whether it's engagement, is different for every family. And starting out on the 2026 accomplishments, what we're looking at is some of these CIPs, which we'll dive in more detail with all of our capital improvement projects in the next phase. But we've really kicked off our 2023 bond. Some of the council members, Mr. Long, Mr. Washington's not here, but we've done site tours on some of these projects, and you get to see them under construction. One of them being JJ Book groundbreaking in 2026 in February. That's skate park, multi-purpose facilities, restroom, open space, a lot of different amenities for that. Baseball fields at Caldwell Park. Now, that was a turf conversion from natural facility to an artificial infield. I do want to hit on the point of that doesn't create more space, but it does alleviate the stress and rainouts, the cost of maintenance and operations. Multi-purpose fields. So we have 3 new adult soccer fields, multi-purpose at Caldwell Park. Record number for youth sports. This year alone, we're pushing almost 3,500 youth participants in our sports programs. Now, when you break that down, that's 3,500 kids basically at one community park. So you're going to see that in some of our my challenges here in a little bit. It's going to be space availability and facilities. From the event side of things, of course, we all know Princeton's growing. With the growth comes more attendees at the events. But last year's Freedom and Fireworks, we had roughly 75 to 8,000. This year we pushed 15. That's double the amount of attendance for one event. Pumpkin Palooza at that time was our largest event at 8,500, but we far surpassed that from the Freedom and Fireworks event. breaking the priorities and challenges, these kind of do go hand in hand. Priorities for the next fiscal year, we're looking at some of our park bond projects, kicking them off, getting them started, under construction and underway. So council, you're going to see a lot more of these contracts coming before you to start the construction and the design phase moving forward. There's two sides to Parks and Rec at this moment. One of them is going to be the maintenance and operations, which I'll talk departmental. The other one is the construction phase, which is handled through the GO bonds of 23. Recreation programming, we all know, and the community desires more needs, more activities, more opportunities for growth and enhancement throughout the city. This piques our challenges based on personnel. I've got one recreation coordinator that's handling 3,500 kids just in youth sports programs. So when you're talking 3,500 kids, that's 7,000 parents, right? That's a lot of parents, it's a lot of families, not including the additional recreational needs and spaces that we would like to offer to the community, camps, clinics, programs, and that falls into one of the needs and requested items for recreation specialists this coming year. Priorities being fiscally responsible. This is looking at Parks and Rec being creative in ways how we can be fiscally responsible and cut cost without eliminating the quality or hindering the quality of service that we're providing. If I was to tell you that we have current park park maintenance staff operates and manages 250 acres between 8 individuals, what would you say? What would I also say if we were to add an additional 1,000 acres this next year, but requesting additional two maintenance personnel? That's 4 times the amount of land on additional 2 personnel. How can we do that? It's being creative and looking at outsources and different resources and funding mechanisms to drive those costs down, looking at third parties to manage while our park staff can focus on the deeper needs to provide top quality levels of service for the community.
I think we should increase our programming. We can have lawnmower races, so we get the grass cut. We could have, just have the maintenance Olympics. Princeton has a new innovation.
So,
We could get it done that way.
Ms. Graves, I love it. So at our annual TRAPS conference, it's been held even locally in Allen and Frisco in the past few years as well. They have a maintenance rodeo, which the maintenance rodeo requires, your park staff on several pieces of equipment, basically like the cones, teaching cops to drive, you know how that goes, right? Driving the cones up and down. Well, they do that with heavy equipment and with lawnmowers. One thing I do want council to take a look at is if you're looking at some of those budgeted requests and you look at the organizational chart, something to start to take a look at for the future. As a priority in getting these parks underway, and what we're looking at is not necessarily just the parks, but it's the long-term investment into the city. And with that long-term investment, we need to ensure that we're protecting the quality of the product that we're bringing to the table. If you look at that FY 27-28 and you see park, that's our multi-generational facility. It's going to take roughly 60 to 75 personnel to operate a facility of that magnitude. And these are things that we need to start thinking about. We need to start looking at and planning for, because yes, we're looking in creative ways of cost recovery models, but there will be times where those first few years are not cost recovery. So we need to think about that now, so when those doors open, we're not running on a skeleton crew or in a deficit. Because that is the last thing from a city standpoint that we want to, we want to happen. So these are things that we need to focus on. Ms. Graves, you mentioned some fees earlier in these budget and being fiscally responsible and budget constraints. These happen through the Parks and Rec every single day. We're going to talk some sponsorships and some opportunities for some of these large-scale events. I gave a presentation at the last council meeting on what the actual costs are for special events, one being Freedom and Fireworks. That was the last event we just had. It's a $268,000 event all in. How can we manage and offset some of those costs as a city to ensure that we're still giving the residents top tier and top quality of product without impacting the general budget? And those are going to be some creative ways, looking at sponsorships, scholarships, and bringing back fees associated. Whether it's a parking fee, you'll see in the list for some of the fees for this next year, an additional parking fee will be imposed, should council approve. Ms. Graves, you talked about, a convenience fee that is actually added in as a flat rate from a Parks and Rec standpoint. We run every single one of these that you see at 3,500 kids. Every one of those are all online registrations. We have a processing fee based on 3.5% for each registration cost. And the cost of operations is continuing to increase, and what we want to ensure is that we are staying with the market and the surrounding cities, but still trying to stay at that bottom level, but we have to be competitive. We do. And the increase of the operations have almost doubled over the past 3-4 years. Officiating is one of them. So these things we need to start being aware of, and it's unfortunate, but those fees must be imposed back on those participants to be a more cost recovery model. As far as that, I want to take a look. We're going to break down into the parks bond projects and some of the CIPs at a next section, so I will dive into our plan and path forward. But we need to ensure that when we put these projects on the ground, we have the staff to maintain them and to ensure the longevity and the quality. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I know we have some land that has been given to the city for park stuff that isn't really big enough to do much with, such as, one comes to mind, the land that was supposed to be for a fire station, turns out we can't actually use it, and it's really land only you could use. Have you considered potentially adding within our parks trails, like BMX trails? They have minimal work that needs to be done to them, encourages the bike riding and stuff for the kids, could make use of land that we have and can't really do anything with. Is that something you've considered for a recreational piece?
So getting into specifics on each individual new parcel of property, these are things that we can definitely bring up with the Parks Board and looking at our Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. So these are things that we would push through them, and once those are established, then we can really start to develop plans long term. We have a plan, a pathway moving forward for the bonds that were sold in 2023, but looking into the future, I think the advisory committee is the first path to start with that.
Just generally, Chase, as we look at other cities, They are close to the highway. They are diversified in many ways in their offerings. Even their economic base is more solid than Princeton. Princeton is uniquely positioned where tourism is going to be our main economic earner, it seems. We are in a landlocked area. We're far from any of the major highways unless TxDOT changes something. And so I think Parks and Recreation is especially in a good place to really sell Princeton with the activities that are offered, what the parks offer, the fees that are charged, the events that are held here, how we could economize on maybe having intercity, not even just scholastic meets, but also in just in intercity engagements. Cricket is growing in America. We do have a large population in Princeton and some of our surrounding cities of individuals who engage in that. We just had the FIFA World Cup. A lot of people like soccer. We do have that population here. So starting to look at what's available in Princeton and then market Princeton as a place, as a hub where these things occur, could help substantially to not only bring economic growth in other areas, but also serve to be a revenue generator for us. And so I would recommend that we start looking into those avenues as well, not only building infrastructure for residents who are here, but also building infrastructure that will draw others from other cities. I want people from Frisco saying, we're going to Princeton for the weekend and they have a hotel there. We're going to stay in this hotel or that hotel. I want people from Plano saying, Princeton has new things, so we're going to Princeton. That is what I would love to see happen here. And Parks and Recs is especially juxtaposed to do that. I think you're doing a really good job, and I commend you for what you're doing, and I just only see the zenith for where this can go.
Thank you for that. And we'll actually hit on that topic as far as some of the recreational spaces and sports facilities and so forth when we get into the CIPs, because that actually is prioritizing and moving those up the timeline to balance out the first and second bond sale. And not only that, become a revenue generating facility that can help offset some of these expenditures long term for Princeton.
And Chase, we've talked about this, but all-weather softball, baseball, and soccer fields are also something that the CDC would be interested in participating in with you, because we do need more.
I agree with Councilwoman David Grace on that. Having more tourism and stuff like that, bringing people in is a great avenue to go down, which is why I think it's probably really important to ensure that parks and development are working together hand in hand when we're making decisions on the types of communities that we're putting around our parks, ensuring that, if we're bringing in outside visitors and they're coming in and they're driving up to our park, we want them going through and seeing like the beauty and what makes our city great. And we have to be very mindful of what kind of development projects we're putting in those areas to protect that.
Chase, so as I'm looking at the breakdown that you have here for the org chart, you mentioned, I think the number was 75, like new roles that are going to be needed for the recreation center. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, 35.
Was it for the number of people that was going to be needed for just managing the operational aspect of the rec center, the park, everything that's under the park manager on the org chart? Is that the correct number that I heard?
Okay, so if you look at the total, there's roughly 65.
65, okay.
60. Now, you'll have probably 10 full-time employees minimal, but you can operate roughly on 10 full-time employees and probably 55 to 60 part-time employees. Now, a lot of those are all part-time and seasonal based on, whether they're rec specialists, whether they're camps and clinics for the summer.
Got you.
Lifeguards, et cetera. I'm
I'm just curious as to like, I don't know the specific like job requirement or expectations for each role, but like out of these, if there's, I guess my recommendation is if there's any of these that you see are not unique enough in nature to require like certain specialization, I don't know, if certificates or degree levels. I'm thinking about our kids that are coming out of high school, maybe even going through the mayor's apprenticeship program, getting an opportunity to get to come through your space and learn about what you guys do, and then kind of be shepherded into, some of these seasonal roles and things like that that are fit for them at their capacity. Is my recommendation is if we can look into those types of things, I think that'd be a great way to ensure that our youth are kind of getting involved as another way to have line of sight to what happens within their city and how the city functions and grows. And who knows, maybe they like it and they decide to join full-time as the city continues to grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, looking at those, like you said, filter in even from Princeton and so forth, but a lot of, some of those positions that you're gonna see, the manager level and the executive level positions coming on from the rec center, those need to be in place, and everybody needs to be well prepared to open the facility day one.
Yeah.
This isn't something that you can wait till it opens to start hiring. This is a 6 to 9 month in advance process, especially with your managers, your supervisors, developing SOPs, MOPs, and putting those in place so that way when the facility opens, you're ready to activate.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I could appreciate that fact. And the other only question I have for you is, looking at this, if just turn the page from one, section to, from what the current state is to what the future state's going to be, you see this expansion of roles within your space. As we are looking at, the parks that are coming through JJ Book, the rec center, so on and so forth, what is your, like, is there, I'm trying to kind of, in my mind, think about like a number perspective, from like current payroll to like future state perfect world scenario payroll. What would we looking at, for what we would be kind of paying, employees that are under your org in this capacity, future state?
A lot of the positions on that org chart are, entry-level positions, 15 to $20, $25 an hour employees. Your higher executive levels and your managers, you're looking in the upwards of 80 to 110 for a facility manager. So that scale ranges depends on qualifications and facilities, but your FTEs and the managers and supervisors are the ones that you're going to need to look at first to hire those individuals in to develop your, like I said, your policies and procedures. And then as far as seasonal, those are 12 to 15 to, $20 an hour employees.
Yeah. I think the reason why I'm asking this, and this, I had a point to the approach. I think Councilman Johnson mentioned earlier about the residents' request for, new things, and this is solving for that, right? Rec Center's been on, a big ticket item for the city for a while now. I think I'm just using this as an example to reinforce how, like, I hear as the department heads come up, you guys are all saying like we're trying to be more efficient and save money and so on and so forth. But I feel like we're running kind of a little bit behind in the area of maybe our taxes and commercial growth and things like that. So for me, I think this is an area where us as council can help support and pushing for the things, pulling the levers that are going to help fund these types of things. As the residents are acting for them, it's going to cost money. So right now, we don't have those big box retailers in the current state. So the levers that are available to us for us to pull to ensure that we are able to provide the resources and the things that they want are going to have to be looked at. So I just wanted to use this as a great example to say that unfortunately we may have to pull some of those levers that may be not so favorably looked at from a resident perspective. But thank you, Chase.
And that was the purpose for these being added to, so we start to think about what we need to do coming up for the future.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chase. Hey, Mr. Mayor, so in the interest of time, we still probably got about 4 more departments to get through. We do have water, wastewater, CIP projects and some other items that's kind of get out there. So can we go ahead and take about a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back and try to get through these next 4 departments that's here, and then get through our wastewater, water, and CIP projects?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, so the time is 1:26, and we will take a 10-minute recess.
we got about 1 minute. We're 13 minutes in. If we kind of get everybody squared away and get it rolling.